All right, have you ever heard a story with the twist of irony so perfect it's almost unbelievable? We're going to talk about a guy named Shang Yang, a man who basically built a perfect, unstoppable machine only to be completely devoured by it. It's an incredible story about power, control, and some serious lethal karma. So Shang Yang's whole legacy really kicks off with this one absolutely shocking idea. See, during China's Warring States period, soldiers mostly just fought to, not die. But for the state of Qin, Shang Yang completely rewired the whole point of war. He created a system where the only thing that mattered, the only way to climb the ladder, was to kill. So how in the world did he do it? Well, he built what you could call a killing machine, and he fueled it with pure, raw human ambition. The very first piece of his new national operating system was a total redesign of the military, and it turned Qin into the most feared force of its time. He started by throwing out the entire old system of status. He got rid of hereditary nobility and replaced it with this one simple concept, shuji, which translates to head rank. All of a sudden, it didn't matter who your father was. It didn't matter how much money you had. The only currency that had any value on the battlefield was the number of enemy heads you personally collected. And the power of this system was in its just brutal simplicity. The incentive couldn't have been clearer. You collect one head, you go up one rank, and that new rank came with real, tangible stuff. Land, slaves, even better housing. These are things that even the old rich nobles couldn't just buy. And this simple formula turned the whole army, from the lowest peasant to the highest lord, into a bunch of absolutely obsessed headhunters. But rewards, that was only half of the equation. See, Shang Yang was smart. He knew that for his machine to be truly perfect, fear had to be just as powerful a motivator as greed. So he built a system of absolute, and I mean inescapable, accountability. He took his infamous policy of collective punishment and applied it directly to the military. Here's how it worked. You're in a 5-man unit. If one of you runs away, the other 4 are executed. A commander fails a mission, he's executed. A commander gets killed in battle, his own men get punished for not protecting him. The only way out, the only way to make up for any mistake, was to bring back more enemy heads. There was literally no escape. You either killed the enemy, or the state of Qin killed you. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of man even thinks of a system this cold, this logical? Well, the historical sources, they paint a pretty clear picture. They describe Shang Yang as cruel and ungrateful. And he wasn't just some armchair general. He lived by the same ruthless logic he forced on everyone else. And there's one event that shows his true character perfectly. Let's rewind to 341 BC. Shang Yang is leading an army against his old home state of Wei. And guess who's commanding the Wei army? His old buddy Prince Ang. The two armies are at a stalemate, so Shang Yang decides to do something that just shattered every code of honor that existed back then. He sends a personal letter to Prince Ang, basically saying, hey, remember me? We're old friends. Let's just have a peace summit, share some wine, and end this whole war like brothers. And Prince Ang, trusting in the ancient rules of diplomacy and their old friendship, agreed. He showed up to the meeting completely unarmed. And of course, it was a trap. The moment Prince Ang arrived, Shang Yang's hidden assassins jumped out and captured him. With the Wei army suddenly leaderless and confused, the Qin forces staged a surprise attack and just slaughtered them. Now, this wasn't just random cruelty. It was brutally effective. This single act of treachery won Qin a vital strategic pass and a huge chunk of territory. For Shang Yang, the ends always justified the means. And that brings us to the final, incredibly ironic chapter of his life. For years, Shang Yang was totally untouchable. He was protected by his powerful patron, Duke Shao of Qin. But the moment his protector was gone, the machine he so perfectly built turned right around and came for him. In 338 BC, Duke Shao dies. The new king who takes over? Well, years earlier, Shang Yang had had the new king's own teacher mutilated as a punishment. So you can bet there was no love lost there. The king immediately issued a warrant for Shang Yang's arrest, and just like that, the most powerful man in the entire state was a fugitive, running for his life. And here is the ultimate irony. The absolute genius of his system now became his own personal nightmare. He'd created the perfect surveillance state, right? With household registration, mandatory travel permits, and collective punishment for anyone who dared to help a criminal. He had built the perfect cage, and now he was trapped inside it. So picture this. He's on the run, desperate. and he flees to the border. He tries to get a room at an inn for the night. The innkeeper takes one look at him and refuses. And he says, quote, "According to Shang Yang's law, if I let you in without a permit, my whole family will be executed." He was literally denied shelter by the very law that he himself wrote. It wasn't long before he was captured. And his punishment? Oh, it was the most brutal death sentence he himself had made popular for traitors, being torn limb from limb by 5 horses. The creator was quite literally consumed by his own creation. You just can't make this stuff up. So why? Why did this incredibly harsh system actually work in Qin when other states had tried and failed to reform? And what is the final legacy of this man and the brutal machine he left behind? Well, most sources suggest that Qin was basically the perfect laboratory for this kind of experiment. It was considered a backward state at the time, which meant it didn't have the powerful, dug-in noble families that fought against change everywhere else. So Shang Yang didn't just pass a few laws. He installed a complete national operating system on what was essentially a blank slate. And it worked. It gave the state total power, and it paved the way for Qin to eventually unify all of China. And this all leads us to one final, really haunting question. Shang Yang's system, there's no denying it, it was a massive success. It built a superpower that conquered all its rivals. But that success was built on a foundation of total control, constant fear, and the crushing of any kind of individuality. The price of unification was absolute control. So looking back at it all, you have to ask yourself, was it worth it?